So I grew up with two sisters and surrounded by women. The only male figure in my life was my father. And my dad, he never had a dad. So ultimately, he was doing the best that he could with what he knew. But there were times when I felt like in order to gain that sort of acceptance from my father and to make him feel proud, I had to do well in my sports team, or I felt like I had to do well in my school, or I had to go and climb the highest mountain in order to please him. I didn't receive that unconditional love for just being who I was. In saying that, I love my father and I'm so grateful for everything that he's done for me in my life. But I was always searching for that validation, and probably when I look back at it, one of the core fears I've had growing up as a boy was that I didn't have what it takes to be a man, or I didn't have it within me to be man enough. And I hope one day that I can, grow up to be a man and be a father figure for young boys. I feel like that's the least I could do in my life, and that's really brings purpose back to my life and brings me meaning, to be able to have the opportunity to help someone else.
I thought Liberated was amazing and thought-provoking.
I liked the film because it really portrayed an honest depiction of the sexual culture in America. I appreciated how blunt it was, and it was a little bit of a slap in the face, but in probably the best way possible.
I think that the way that it not only talked about masculinity, but also femininity, and really pushed for people watching to understand kind of the gender roles at play in a culture of sexual violence was really valuable.
It just captured all of the conversations that we've been having in the Greek community surrounding rape culture and a culture of sexual violence.
This film did a good job of capturing people who kind of parallel everyone you're seeing in your life around you, and showing that's not what you want to be, that's not what you want to let it get to.
I'm just so proud that this film asks the hard questions and leads us into a discussion of what it really means to relate to people.
We're at Occidental College for the Liberated screening here tonight. I'm really excited because we're here in my hometown of LA.
The film you're going to see tonight looks at hookup culture and asks whether or not we can have sexual liberation essentially in a patriarchy. He's also
I feel like every screening I go to, the crowd just gets a little bit bigger, and so it'll be nice to see what these people have to say.
Every time I sort of step to the front of this crowd who've just seen this movie and their viewpoint of me is extremely negative, they're all quite even shocked to realize that I would be there and I'd be helping to promote the film. But for me, it's extremely liberating and freeing in a sense that I'm able to get this story out and face my own darkness, so to speak.
So if anybody has any questions for any of the panelists, anybody want to raise their hand? Okay.
They said that since this film, you kind of changed since then. Can you clarify what changed?
Yep. That's a good question. Thanks for asking it. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. The part that I'm featured in the film was done about 5 years ago, and as you can see by my actions, they were quite destructive in many ways to myself and to other people. So when I reflect back to the time, I was completely broken actually in my heart, and it's sort of reflective, I guess, on our culture in many ways, where our sexuality is kind of a deep expression of our longingness for love, in the sense that we're sort of all looking for love, and I was lost in the ways that I was searching for it. When I look back at it, I see how heartless and insensitive it was to a lot of women, and I just want to express my apologies to every single woman out there. I see this as an opportunity to be a voice for men, to realize that it's not appropriate to behave in those ways and to relate to women in those ways. And obviously, instead of seeing women as an object to use for ourselves, see them as actually a whole human being, where they have emotions and feelings and all aspects of their entirety. So.
Kimmy, right? You talked about how you had a younger sister. I also have a younger sister, she's 8. And kind of what you said resonated with me. I was just wondering, like, how she's grown up, kind of how you felt your relationship with her, really helping her through the process of, like, going through puberty and maturing.
Right. Yeah, so my sister is going to be 16 soon, so she's in high school, which I feel like only makes it a little bit harder because that whole transitional year is where everyone is confused and is looking to social media and society for answers. I want to think that for the most part that she's doing well, but it is hard. She recently got Instagram, and if I'm having trouble with Instagram and comparing myself to other people, then I can only imagine what it is for her. So the best thing that I try to do for her is to be encouraging of her as a person and uplift her and empower her in ways that are completely outside of her physical sense. Give her a sense of empowerment when it comes to her studies or her extracurriculars or inquire, and not focusing so much attention or on whether or not she's in a relationship or something like that, and encouraging her to form strong, lasting relationships with other women. And, because I think us women got to stick together and empower one another.
While I was watching this, as we caught on camera some stuff that was, I think we can all agree, was sexual assault. I think what I kind of wanted to ask you was, how did you feel documenting that on camera? Because I understand while making a documentary, you're kind of observing. You're not really supposed to intervene per se in order to fully capture the scope of the issue that's going on. But I was wondering, did you ever intervene in these situations where you're videotaping?
Yeah, that's another great question. And just to say at the outset, and trying to answer that if I ever see a situation where a girl is being sexually assaulted, then I'm going to intervene. And there was a situation where I did intervene with one girl because it was a little bit of a more prolonged situation where she had her top ripped off, she got back up on this thing, top ripped off again, and she was just sobbing but nobody was helping her. So I went in, and I'm not trying to sound like the hero, but just, since you asked, I went and pulled her out. It turns out the girl was underage, and so we were not going to use that footage. But I was there talking to her, and she was incoherent at this point. So I'm trying to recruit her friends to help her to get her out of there.
Hey, help him out. You need to get her out of here. I'll fucking fire get her out of here. Traumatized.
And I'm surrounded by, the only best way to describe it would be a mob ready to rape. And I look up, and the whole entire crowd starts chanting, USA, USA, 10,000 people start chanting this. And the girl who I'm trying to get help for her friend leaves her friend and me and goes and joins the chanting. But that was the environment that we filmed in. Those were the dynamics at play. It was utter chaos. And actually, the one situation towards the end, we didn't even know what we had filmed until we went back and looked at it later. And it was just sobering for all of us. I mean, this movie was wrought in tears. Like, it was not this cavalier thing of, I mean, we were pained over the reality of what we uncovered. And so, yeah, thank you guys for taking the time to be here tonight. It really means a lot to us, and thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I thought the film was really eye-opening, and I think having Kimmy there was very empowering. I was a little uncomfortable at first with having Shay there just because I questioned the value of kind of elevating a perpetrator's voice, but it ended up being powerful even though we didn't agree on a lot of things.
Seeing Shay kind of talk about his transformation, it reminded me that like people aren't just evil forever, people can change. But also it really bothered me that we kind of like are celebrating someone for just literally not being a perpetrator anymore.
In terms with Shay, I found myself being frustrated during the screenings when people are celebrating his apology.
Just because you admitted that you were part of the problem, that's great, like good, thank you. But at the same time,
it is only a first step into being an advocate and an ally for women. I think he has so much potential to have a great impact. I think he has great potential,
but it's a lifestyle change for sure.
Every day is presenting new challenges. To be around people who are really intelligent and have expertise on the subject matter, it's really helped gain knowledge, gain language, and gain better articulation into the feelings that I was going through and what's stirring in my stomach at the time, which I had no words for, but I could feel in my core. And to have words now to be able to talk about that and let that out has been extremely healing. The negative feedback that I've received from people who have only seen the movie and only viewed that one aspect of myself. At first it sort of upset me, but then I realized that if that was the only view I had of myself, I would probably react the same way. So it is difficult. It doesn't really get easier, but I've enjoyed the journey so far.
Being involved with all these screenings at college campuses, I definitely think that the one-on-ones that I'm having with people, I am receiving hope from them and they're receiving hope from me. It's almost as if like hope is contagious because you're seeing active steps to a future that you want to see. And it's not just you making those active steps. There's actually just a whole community behind you. It just energizes me to keep doing this.
In a couple of weeks, we head to the UK to get these screenings out there and take it across the universities. So I'm grateful to be here and learning lots along the way. How can we free ourselves from living in this society that we created?
We're in this really interesting cultural moment that begs the question, where do we go from here?